A few months back, new Zelda 64 prototype footage was discovered on a rare Japan-only VHS tape. Now obviously I was super jealous that I wasn't the one to discover it, but I got a chance at redemption when I found the same tape on Yahoo Auctions Japan. And after talking with Gaming Legend 64, he decided to buy the tape, but first send it over to me so I could have my shot at capturing it, cleaning it, and showcasing it to all of you guys. But we're not just showcasing the video today, we are doing much more. This tape has new frames of animation and new footage in general, but much of it goes by very, very fast and it's kind of hard to see. So we're going to slow it down, showcase it frame by frame so you can really soak in that beta Zelda 64 goodness. But wait, there's more. This tape has that aforementioned new footage, but this tape also has some footage from the same playthrough and the same build that's showcased in this one. You can see it has many of the same locations, it uses the same HUD, and the player has an equivalent number of hearts. So I do believe they were recorded in the same session. Today I'll be combining them to piece Zelda 64 into a more cohesive story. But before we do, we actually have a sponsor for today's video. They are the makers of this shirt right here, Into the AM. Now, I really like Into the AM's designs, but I also love the fact that they actually fit me and feel really comfortable. I mentioned this in the last video, but I am sort of an odd size. So, for example, like my pant sizes are literally odd. 31 waist, 31 height, which is functionally non-existent. Like, you don't really find those in tandem very often. And as you can probably imagine, my top half is similar as well. I generally am somewhere between a medium and a large, but depending on the brand, it could go bad for me. Or if I get a medium and then it shrinks, it just goes right to the Goodwill because it no longer fits me anymore. But these are a poly cotton blend and they're very shrink resistant, so it just sort of gives me a little bit of a peace of mind that I can have a shirt that I enjoy that I won't then destroy in the dryer. So if you are looking for a comfortable t-shirt with exciting and colorful designs, look no further than Into the AM. Their poly cotton blends are shrink resistant, as I mentioned, and will last you wash after wash. Plus, with our great deal, you can get 3 graphic tees for just $60 or 3 basic tees for $49.95. And as a bonus, you can use the link in the description to save an additional 10% off. So whether you are going out with friends or staying in to tediously string together individual frames of 26-year-old VHS tapes, choose Into the AM and do it in style. Links below. So let's go ahead and start off with an explanation of how these two tapes are similar, but different, and also a little bit of my thought process in terms of how to combine them properly. Alright, you're going to notice that we have 2 rows of video here. The one I just highlighted is the new footage, and the one below it is the old footage, or the more commonly known footage. Now you're going to see here that on the new tape we have Link walking up to get the Triforce. And we have similar footage in the old tape, but it's just not as complete. We have a little bit more in the new footage. And also notice how the old footage jumps from him walking up the stairs to immediately opening the chest with the Triforce. In the new footage, we have him kneeling down, running his hand down the chest a little bit, opening it up, covering his eyes, and actually taking a step back on the stairs, which we don't see in the other footage. The new footage has a nice glowy effect. Also notice that Link's shadow shifts. Kinda neat. And also note that this is a cutscene, not gameplay footage. There's no HUD, there's no heart count, nothing like that. Now, the new footage actually ends with just one piece of the Triforce coming out, but the older footage has the full Triforce coming together and forming. A nice completion to the scene. Now here we have Link entering a room, a door closing, he looks behind himself, grabs a sword. See it again. Now I always thought that this was related to this scene right here because of the blue coloring. Like this is the entrance to a dungeon, basically. Notice how the floor is the same in terms of the square blue tiles, but the tiles on the wall, the bricks on the wall, are not the same. Now, with the new footage, there's a little odd piece here. Link actually moves his hand away from the sword, which I don't remember existing in other early footage. Maybe it did, maybe I'm just not remembering it properly. Then I realized something. The new footage also has this scene. A continuation, where Link walks up to the Triforce. I always thought he was entering a dungeon. He's not entering a dungeon here, he's already in the dungeon. Here, he's entering the Triforce room. The door closes behind him, he goes to grab his sword, doesn't need it, brings his hand back down, and moves forward toward the treasure. And that is something I had never pieced together on my own before. Now this room is particularly interesting. There's a bunch of different clips where Link is fighting enemies. The enemies vary in number, but they all are seemingly in the same room. By the way, really cool shield here. But there are a couple of other clips where the room is colored a little bit differently. But the floor still has that very square tile look, and the walls have that very sort of horizontal backsplash tile look about them. But it's a different color scheme. So I began wondering, are these supposed to be the same room? Different rooms? Colored differently? What's going on here? Again, floor is the same shape, wall is the same shape, just a different color. Same enemies and everything too. Then I realized the Stalfos in the blue room are also very blue, whereas they're more yellowy in the more teal yellowy room. And I realized this is probably just a color correction thing. So if I tell Premiere that the Stalfos are in fact white, I can sort of white balance this whole thing, and it turns quite blue. So I really believe that these are actually supposed to be the same room, or at least very similar rooms in the same dungeon. I think they're supposed to be the same color, but something happened with the color correction back when they were recording or bringing this onto VHS or something, I don't know. Something happened where they ended up looking different. For the purpose of this video, I won't be color correcting the individual frames. I'm just leaving them as they are on the tape, but just know these could very well be the same color. And lastly, we can see some Castletown footage here. Note the texture on the building, and note the texture on the exterior wall. There's the exterior wall. There's the building. The camera angle changes quite a bit here, so it can be a little bit confusing, but if you keep an eye out for those particular textures, they're good landmarks to kind of figure out that yes, it all takes place in Castletown, just at different times of day, different locations, different camera angle, etc. Now, before we get into what I compiled, I want to showcase a preview that's on this tape as well, Solo para Nintendo. It's a Spanish tape from around the same era, but it is a different build and a different playthrough. Note the number of hearts and the difference between the HUDs. I'm going to play it here for fun, but, you know, the preview here is not presented in that very stroby, flashy, fast-paced manner like the other tapes, so I don't feel like it needs to be broken down frame by frame. And I'm not going to be combining it into the other tapes because it's not the same build. Now, I will note that for some reason the footage here has always just been really blurry. I've owned both a French tape and the Spanish tape here, and both contain the same preview, and both are just real fuzzy. I've also never seen it represented well online either. I think for whatever reason, the baseline footage here is just not as clean and as crisp as the footage used on these tapes. I'm not sure why though. I'm wondering if Nintendo of Japan just recorded this in lower quality, plus maybe the conversion from NTSC to PAL was done poorly. I don't know. Nonetheless, I captured it and cleaned it as well as I could.
De todos los gráficos en 3D. Y es que no podía ser de otra forma. Zelda 64 es la obra maestra del genio de Nintendo, Miyamoto. Y para redondearlo, encima tendrá todos los textos de pantalla en castellano.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the frame-by-frame footage from these tapes, and then after that, I'll go ahead and play this new tape in full for your enjoyment. Alright, that is it from me today. Please make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Join us on Patreon, and I will leave you with the Spring 97 N64 software lineup tape in full. Enjoy.
ブラストドーザー。任天堂64の最新技術を駆使して作られた新しいタイプのメカアクションゲームがついに登場。非常に危険な化学物質を乗せたトレーラーがコントロール不能になってしまった。トレーラーを一刻も早く安全な場所に誘導するために行く手を塞ぐ障害物を全て破壊しなければならない。どんな建物でも邪魔であればぶっ潰す。用意された破壊マシンは8種類。強靭なボディでガンガン体当たり。5種類の車両タイプ。大地や大空を華麗に駆け巡る3種類のロボットタイプ。それぞれの特徴を生かしマシンを乗り換えろ。汚染された地域をクリーンにする任務。住民を安全に避難させる任務。作業の総合評価でランクが与えられる。さらにスポーツカーやミニバンなど多彩な乗り物が登場。破壊する爽快感、救助する達成感をド迫力のメカアクションで楽しもう。ブラストドーザー。ついに任天堂64で登場。野球ゲームの決定版実況パワフルプロ野球4。あのパワプロくんが一段とパワーアップ。64のグラフィックでパワプロくんもこんなに綺麗になった。ポリゴンで実際の球場を正確に再現。大阪ドームや名古屋ドームでもプレイできる。3D スティックの操作感も抜群。投打の駆け引きも一層スリリングに。サクセスモードではピッチャーの育成も可能になった。オリジナルチームを作って友達と対戦だ。選手は全て実名で登場。もちろん公式データを使用。実況もより滑らかでますます盛り上がる。走塁や守備をオートに切り替えたり落下点を表示したりいろいろ設定できる親切設計。初めてでもすぐに楽しめる。白熱興奮のプレーの連続。この春は実況パワフルプロ野球4で熱くなれ。
From Konami. Turok.
限界知らずの超大型インタラクティブシューティングゲームがついに任天堂64に登場。トゥロック。人類滅亡を企む破壊神を倒すため今時空戦士トゥロックが颯爽と立ち上がった。密林ワールドを駆け抜けクロノゲートを開くため時空石を集めろ。走る、飛ぶ、登る、泳ぐ、さまざまなアクションで突き進む広大なアドベンチャーワールド。大掛かりな仕掛け、数知れないトラップ、行く手を拒む個性豊かなエネミー。リアルタイムマップでその場の位置を確認しながら切り抜けろ。武装兵器も戦い方に合わせてセレクトだ。 ゲームを数倍楽しむためのトレーニング、さらにサバイバルコースでタイムアタックにも挑戦できる。視野360度の 3D 疑似空間、最先端 CG アニメーション、質感たっぷりのサウンド、今までになかったリアルアドベンチャーがここにある。トゥロック。あの世界的に有名なシリーズが任天堂64に登場。スター・ウォーズ・シャドウズ・オブ・ジ・エンパイア。広大な宇宙空間で縦横無尽に戦え、さまざまな武器を自由に使いこなせ、息もつかせぬアクションとシューティング、見覚えのある人物やおなじみのシーンも盛りだくさん。64でしか味わえないスリリングな物語が今始まる。